What's going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent, and today I'm going to give you my ranting, rambly review of the late game of World of Warcraft. That is going to be with the pre-patch, at least with Shadowlands coming fastly approaching, and I'm not even sure if I should consider late game for the most modern expansion, so that's going to be level 50 through 60. Maybe I probably could do that, but in the end, I am mostly focused on actually getting to max level, talking about the end game experience with that. Looking for a raid is what I'm talking about, as well as heroic dungeons, the slightly harder difficulty dungeons, and I am not mentioning actually mythic pluses, which is going to be the ever increasingly challenging content that you've got to play with guilds, basically. The guild raiding as well, which is harder difficulty versions than the looking for raid version raids, and also just generally, like, I'm skipping over the early game experience, which is 1 through 20, and the mid game experience. So this is once you hit level 50, what are the things that you can do, and then what does that entail, and is it fun? Like, does the game actually start at max level finally for once? Kind of. So, yeah, immediately, I do want to apologize. I do need to refresh, actually, because I do episodic reviews, instead of just doing an encompassing review, which I probably should do. But I have to refresh my early game experience, the 1 through 20 review. I have to refresh my mid-game experience. So, just immediately, real quick, I will say that 1 through 20, super fun. Brand new player, you're going to play Exile's Reach, and then you're going to jump into leveling with Battle for Azeroth, and it's definitely designed with newcomers in mind, so don't worry about that. Returning players, don't level in Battle for Azeroth. You want to go to Warlords of Draenor, or you're going to play in Legion. Those are probably the most refreshing and interesting, especially with the class fantasy in Legion, questing and leveling and content that you can play. It is going to lock you into queuing for those style of dungeons as well, so keep that in mind. But it's gonna go through pretty quickly. So getting to late game is faster than ever, it's easier than ever, and I think it's actually more interesting than ever, because the leveling isn't just spread out through, you know, a bunch of arbitrary zones, and you're going to be skipping content, you know, like kind of a stone over water. No, you're going to pick specific content, and yes, you're going to be missing out on certain expansions and maybe certain class quest lines or even faction quest lines. That's going to happen in a massive game like this, but now you can actually play through a cohesive story. You can pick and choose, and that's great, and then you get into the late game, which is what I'm doing. So getting to late game, not that bad, easier than ever, and actually better than ever, despite the fact that it is easy, and I do prefer challenging content. I think most people do, but 1 through 20, awesome, you know, cinematic gameplay. Mid-game, still not as good as it used to be, but you get through it pretty quickly, and you can also queue for dungeons. You do have availability of options of how you actually level, from seasonal events, just doing random questing, stuff like that, or just dungeons. And then finally, level 50, you get to run the harder difficulty stuff. You get to go into the raids. You're going to want to start doing PvP, and you're going to see actually the full content of what World of Warcraft has to offer, your place in the world, and where you can kind of begin to climb the ladder to true late game. And there is a difference with end game and late game. So late game is seeing what the game has to offer. End game is beating the shit out of it, letting it beat the shit out of you. Very, very challenging content, and also the collectathon stuff, you know, getting all the mounts, all the cosmetics, obviously building up your item level and things like that. But, oh, that's what we should actually talk about. Even though you are max level, and this is where the game debatably begins and kind of starts, where you can actually do raids and stuff like that, you're going to need to get a higher item level. And luckily, there are catch-up mechanics kind of in the game right now, and I'm sure with Shadowlands, that's going to happen too. But to actually do all of the raids, you are going to have to build up your item level. So that's basically just going to get better, rare items, stronger items, and you're going to have to grind for that. You are going to have to run dungeons, and it is RNG based. I do not appreciate the RNG-based gameplay, especially with the raids. Raiding, it's like, sometimes, especially with looking for a raid, it can be so hit or miss. Sometimes even killing one boss can take a long time, just based on people being goofy. And then you're not guaranteed, like, anything, basically. Like, you could really get trash. And also, technically with Battle for Azeroth, even though I don't really want to review that expansion, because we're just skipping that, basically, with Shadowlands, kind of, the systems weren't that fun. I gotta say, the Legion stuff, the Legion questing was really sexy, and I kind of wish I played more of that expansion, but Battle for Azeroth, I totally can begin to see where people are like, yeah, the endgame's kind of poop, and the story is very kind of fast and rushy. It seems good. It just doesn't. It seems like maybe Battle for Azeroth could have been like 3 expansions. They really wanted Shadowlands to come out, so Shadowlands is exciting, and the late game for that is going to be cool. And I do want to ask, did you consider late game to be the last leveling experience, like the brand newest expansion? Maybe, possibly. But anyways, I am talking about getting to max level. So basically, you're going to be running dungeons, and you're going to be running raids, and you're just trying to get the best, newest gear. So you're going to have to repeat this a lot. And it's actually really fun, because some of the dungeons, I don't know, actually, random dungeons, regardless of level, have random qualities. So I can't even say like the late game dungeons, like the Battle for Azeroth dungeons, are fun because they totally were designed with new players in mind. And actually the Battle for Azeroth dungeons are the new player experience now. If you're a brand new account, you're going to be playing through the leveling of that and doing those dungeons. You're going to be, like, because levels are equalized in dungeons, you're going to be playing with high level players and stuff. And it kind of doesn't matter. Those dungeons are kind of piss easy, in my opinion. So anyways, I don't know what that counts as, but then you could do heroic versions of these dungeons throughout the game, and it's actually pretty fun. You know, you actually get a little bit of challenge. But even then, it's really the raids. That's when the game, and probably likely the mythic versions of dungeons, where the game kind of comes to life. And you're gonna have to join a guild for that, or you can join pre-made groups. But basically, the raids, I gotta say, is where it's like, oh, this is what people are talking about when like World of Warcraft is hype as hell. So to immediately describe why raiding is better, it's like you actually have to play your role, and your character really actually comes to life. So before this, the dungeoning experience, it was mostly like, okay, the tank runs into a blob of things and just holds aggro instantaneously and very easy. And basically tank specs seem to be kind of more like simplistic versions of DPS specs. So it's very unfun in dungeons, especially because there's no tank mechanics, essentially. There's no super epic giant attacks that you have to use multiple cooldowns, you know, combinations of shit going down that you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about pulling, you know, well, maybe you might have to pull, you know, to initially, you can't just run in and take the whole dungeon. You might have to strategically here and there just take a few, you know, mobs, whatever, but for the most part, tanking, you don't have to actually specifically move things around pillars. You don't have to specifically actually spread apart mobs, or, you know, there's no like off tanking or anything. There's nothing, you know, there's basically no tank mechanics. Same thing with DPS. You basically just stand still and you whack them. You know, they're just punching bags. Every once in a while, you might have to step back from one of the red circles. Like bosses have like one red circle or something. But yeah, no. And healers, yeah, you play whack-a-mole. You just click on people who are, you know, dying and make them not die. Raiding, though, things totally have changed for me. In fact, I used to think I was gonna want to tank and stuff. Tanking is definitely scary. Being a tank inside of a raid. Raiding tanks is genuinely nerve-wracking because raids have actual mechanics. And that's the most like base, you know, bare bone version of looking for raid. And, you know, actually as a DPS, there are so many red circles to avoid. There are so many mechanics that you can interact with. And it's really core that you disrupt and cancel and silence, you know, certain casts and spells. And you actually feel like you're not just pressing buttons and making a health bar go down. You actually feel like, I don't know, like you're part of this raid and you're all in this together. You know, you guys got to do mechanics together. So there's going to be like laser beams, you know, it can feel kind of like a shoot 'em up in some instances. Other times it's going to feel like a mini game. Sometimes it's layers of this. It's layers of like shit to dodge, little mini game that you got to do. Still got to, you know, participate with your rotation and depending on your spec and everything. Now I haven't healed inside of raiding, but what I can tell is it looks really fun. It looks really crazy because you have more than ever. You can heal multiple people. There's mechanics that damage multiple people, and you know, picking your targets of, oh, who do I battle res? Do I battle res him or do I save it? You know, maybe the tank goes down. It's pretty cool. Now, I feel a little weird that looking for raid only has 2 tanks because sometimes, like, okay, if a tank dies, it's seriously GG for certain encounters. I think like what, Circle of Stars or something. Like, yeah. Some raids are definitely more complex than others, and maybe some are more fun than others. But having just 2 tanks is kind of scary. And like, oh yeah, that's gonna impact your gameplay too. The queue times. Looking for raid has some big queue times. You know, and just dungeons in general, queue times. You're going to be queuing. Basically, late game, it's going to be you doing some sort of collectathon thing. For me, right now, I'm doing my class quest with Death Knight. I'm trying to get my class mount freaking can't wait to get that. You know, while I'm doing that, I'm cute. I'm cute for looking for raid as an unholy damage. Even though I do want to be a blood DK, I do want to tank. I'm actually gonna have every tank I can in World of Warcraft because I do want to be a valuable asset to the guild that I'm playing. Plus, I want to do some PvP, so I don't know what's gonna be viable or not. Probably monk, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, you know, I'm having fun. It's just queue times, dude. And that is something that I have to say. It can take a very long time to get into a match, and then once you're actually in a match, like, people are gonna drop. You know, a tank is gonna get frustrated and leave. Healer is gonna leave. But if you play as a tank, you're gonna find things pretty quickly. If you play as a healer, you're generally gonna find things pretty quickly. So you have 2 tank positions, 5 healing positions, and then like 18 damage positions. Even though it's 18 damage positions, do know that in a raid, you're not just another face. You know, at least as an Unholy Death Knight, I feel like I have a true purpose because I do fuck tons of AoE damage, and it feels really good. I have a silence that I can consistently interrupt. You know, I can actually help corral characters, monsters. I don't know, I could do stuff and things, and it feels really good overall in the raiding. Again, the difference between dungeon, or at least the leveling dungeons, and maybe some of the more simplistic raids to the good raids, it's just, oh man, dude, World of Warcraft, when it's good, is fucking great, and no other game really feels like that I've experienced so far. The only time I've ever experienced stuff kind of like this is when I was a little baby inside of Guild Wars 2 and didn't know better. And actually, yeah, no, Guild Wars 2 is actually genuinely like the first time doing world bosses and stuff like that, and the first time you run dungeons and fractals in Guild Wars 2 is comparable to World of Warcraft late game. It's just, I think the late game for World of Warcraft actually has scaling difficulty. Like, there's multiple versions of difficulty, there's more you can do, and it actually, like, the mechanics actually genuinely get more complex. You need a guild, you need communication, and so it's the challenge and the sportiness of it that keeps it alive, and they just consistently keep, you know, adding in new raids, expansions, and stuff like that. So, if you've only done the leveling and the dungeons, and maybe just did, like, 1 raid or 2 as you hit max level, the late game, you have not actually seen the end game, which I'm just now starting to peek past the curtain to begin to see, which again, late game is different than end game. So yeah, late game, you're gonna be queued up, you're gonna be running around doing collectathon stuff, you know, just kind of making your character look as cool and badass as possible, maybe queuing for some PvP every once in a while, do some seasonal events, but you're gonna be doing the raiding, and there's actually a few quests that you need to do in order to actually, you know, get your, like, whatever, expansion power set. So we have the Azeroth medallion thing, the Azeroth power. It's kind of boring, the armor thing. It's not as fun as what Legion seemed like, but you are gonna be doing those quests, run through those. There's like some cool world quests, and I've done some world PvP, and overall the PvP has been kind of enjoyable, but it's so very clear. And other huge World of Warcraft content creators have talked about this, but Battleground Pvp is absolutely an afterthought, and yet that used to be my favorite thing to do, as well as World PvP. Even though it does exist, and actually, like, Battleground stuff, like, you could do it, and it can be really fun. Some of the most epic, you know, footage that I've had was in there. I've had some fun in it. It's still fun. It's just still kind of an afterthought, which kind of sucks. A lot of MMOs do that, though. But arenas, you know, hey, that's neat. I really suck. Arenas is really hard, and I have no idea how to learn how to do arenas. The game will not teach you. That's going to be something that I guess we noobs, we're going to have to watch videos and stuff like that. And I'm going to make a list video on the best WoW content creators. A lot of them are PvP content creators, because that shit is deep, actually. Anyways, but the PvP is actually very hard to get into. It's not as instantaneously gratifying as MOBAs, I gotta admit that, but it's actually really cool. I like World of Warcraft PvP. It can be wet noodly, but it can also be very bursty, you know, whenever you actually get a combo right and your team actually works together. I get it. I haven't really done that. I'm a noob. You're not going to see much footage on that. But the raiding and the PvE is kind of like the focus of the game, so that's going to be most of your time. It is worth your time and effort. And even in looking for raid, which people are saying, it's toxic, it's awful, it's not. It's really totally fine. I mean, yeah, there is toxicity and stuff like that, but genuinely, I had that in Guild Wars 2, just the fucking leveling dungeons. People are toxic in Final Fantasy 14, in any Elder Scrolls Online. Like, there's toxicity in everything, because MMOs are designed either, like, to just, people just want to run through it. They just want to run through, get their transmog, or run through and get the new upgrade. They just want to do it. And MMOs do generally take a lot of time, and people don't have a lot of time, and it's like, man, it can be so frustrating, but at the same time, if you you do just happen to get a group that is more patient, it's so fun. Yeah, fail a couple times. You know, let's learn and live, and let's get these mechanics down together. And it's great as a first-time experience. So the late game, I'm actually feeling the magic of MMO once again. No, I'm not in a guild. I need to join or make a guild or something. But I gotta say, like, I haven't really had this experience. I've only tasted it a little bit in Guild Wars 2, and that is more one and done. In World of Warcraft, it's obvious that they mean for you to repeat it, to play it, and to push it harder and harder, do the harder difficulties, and see what you can really do. And I really appreciate that. And no, you're not going to get this experience anywhere else. You think, oh, it's just a boss in a box. I might as well play Monster Hunter. And I actually totally get that comparison. That's legitimately why, you know, I played so much Monster Hunter, because I didn't want to play Final Fantasy XIV, but I wanted to fight bosses. And, yo, that's a cool game too, but it's a totally different game. You know, you can look at certain action RPGs or stuff like, I don't know, Dark Souls, and it's like, oh, if I just want to do raids and I want to fight bosses, why do I need all these other people? Why do this? What are these mechanics that you're talking about? I'm telling you, these weird mini-game, you know, bullet hell mechanics, and fighting these bosses, and also just actually the rotational gameplay of World of Warcraft, all of it coming together is genuinely fun. You know, because the game does have rotations, but then all these other things that get in your way and confuse you and mess you up, and, you know, all these things that you got to think about, and then all these other players, it all comes together to like a beautiful chaotic symphony, I think. And yeah, especially in looking for raid, I know it's a bunch of bullshit and it can be toxic, but it's still super fun to me as a learning brand new experience. Again, to me, that is the magic of MMOs. So I like I like it a lot. I gotta say though, some things that I don't like is going to be the rewards. And this has to be said. I have to end the video with this. As much as I am kind of glorifying this, there are some things that I need to demonize, actually. So the rewards of the raids don't feel that good. Every single time I kill a boss, I want to get some good shit. I do not want low % rate drop stuff to even progress through the game. Give me max level items because I killed that monster. You know, if there's even rare stuff, and especially cosmetic rewards or mounts and pets, sure, make that rare, I guess. Or if there's super duper amazing armor, like super legendary armor, okay, make that rare. But just to have basic upgrades, which I need to raid to get, especially apparently for PvP, and that's a big controversial topic, but yeah, that it shouldn't be as rare as it seems. So yeah, sometimes it feels unsatisfying when you kill a boss, and especially with the current systems, which is the Azeroth power, that doesn't feel as sexy, really. I mean, yeah, you technically every time you do a raid, you'll upgrade a little bit, but like, I don't know, it doesn't feel that good. And also, I gotta say, okay, so the rewards are locked. Like, for a lot of dungeons and stuff, it's daily. For some stuff, it's weekly. Once a week. Once a week. Now me, I'm the kind of player, I don't really like games like Animal Crossing or a lot of mobile games that lock you to like stamina systems or daily limits. Weekly limits? Weekly? That's cancer. Like if I want, basically you're telling me I can't play your game. Now I believe technically you can re-queue. You might not be able to. Some things you can't. Sometimes like it just locks it and you're done. I think with some mythic dungeons, that's it. You can't do it. But what the fuck? I want to play the game. Like, if I just want to keep running the same raid over and over because I genuinely like the mechanics, people do that all the time in action RPGs. People do that all the time, especially in games like Monster Hunter. So if I want to play the game, and if my guild wants to just keep running this thing over and over again, why can't we? And why can't we be rewarded for it? And it just seems really nefarious to me. I think some people could defend it and stand for it, but basically it's nefarious to me because you pay a subscription. So the developer has every single incentive to make you want to spend more time in the game. And same thing with mobile games, you know, like Clash of Clans or whatever. It's like, dude, I just want to play the game. No, you got to put in them quarters, baby. Put in them quarters. You know, so they increase the time, you know, and stuff like that. Oh, but you can spend some money. So in World of Warcraft, they don't have direct mechanics like that. They don't have just like spend money and you can re-unlock this mythic dungeon. No, though I could see that happening one day. Some games do that. A lot of Eastern games do that. But you are paying a sub fee. So the longer it takes you to get the rewards you want and the longer it takes you to do stuff and things through the game and to clear the content, the more money you're spending. Effectively, you are effectively spending that money. And maybe that should be a good video to actually talk about. How much does it cost to do a raid? You know? Like, how much time does that actually put into you? And then the weekly lockout, how much is that actually paying? What is 1/4 of, you know, like $15, or I guess $16, $4? Does it cost $4 to do a raid? I don't know. But there is some cost and some weight involved with it that I don't think feels good. And I don't actually think it's in the spirit of the game. You might be able to debate certain games, it's a lifestyle thing. Like Animal Crossing, I don't quite agree with it. I think it's just a way to gate content to make it seem like it's longer. But, you know, there's different opinions. I really, no, if I'm literally paying monthly for a game, I do not want to see any mechanic that makes me want to spend more months in the game than just one and doneing it, clearing the content and having my fun. And that is why my most played MMO is Guild Wars 2, despite the fact that it's a one and done MMO. So anyways, I also do not like the triple dipping that I'm seeing with transmog. I've already talked about that. There is a cash shop inside of World of Warcraft. I do not like that I have to buy a box copy for Shadowlands, which, talking about late game and getting to the max level, you do need to do that. You have to pay a subscription and pay for the game. You got to buy the game, and it's just a lot of money. So I don't appreciate that. And the worth ratio of how much money you're spending in World of Warcraft, I think it's going to totally depend on when you actually subscribe. Again, I've actually done rants videos on that. I think now is a great time to subscribe and play. I think Shadowlands is going to be a good expansion. There's a lot of hype, and I actually am having fun doing the raiding, and the catch-up mechanics and all the new leveling experience is genuinely awesome. It gets you into the late game, and you can actually see what World of Warcraft is really about, or at least begin to pretty quickly. But it's still not a perfect game. There's still some things to really shit on the game for and to really call out. You know, Blizzard, Activision, come on. Treat us more fairly. I think that people would really appreciate it because there's a lot of awesome stuff in this game that is literally time gated, but also like just the concepts themselves stop people from even trying because of, I think, moral implications of, wow, they're triple dipping. And then what? Time gating. I don't want to no life this game. Or like, you know, I want to play a game and play it seriously. But you can't do either. You can't do either. You have to kind of, oh man, and I'm just saying this, but like Battle for Azeroth and Legion have a ton of time-gated content. That's actually the reason why I don't have my class mount, is because even though that's not technically late-game content, I am doing that in the late game, and you have the option to do stuff like that in the late game, which is cool. Awesome options, but there's a lot of stuff where it's like, okay, you need to do a Legion invasion, except those happen for like 4 hours once a day, and you just happen to be on during that time to do it. A bunch of other stuff like that. A lot of time gating, and I feel like that's probably going to be worse, maybe, coming soon. And I don't like that. So that's my rant, that's my ramble. Anyways, the experience, it's been good. I like the bullet helly minigame ridiculousness of raids. No other game has really had that I've seen, though I know Final Fantasy XIV does mechanics like that too. I'm excited to go play that, and I think Guild Wars 2 Endgame also has stuff like that. I haven't done the newest expansion of that, but Guild Wars 2 also has a taste of that too. So those are two games that you might be interested in, or if you have played those and had a taste of that, you also get that in World of Warcraft, and I believe the audience in general, the community, the MMO community in general, admits that it is the best in WoW. I have not quite seen that it is the best, but it is comparable, at least what I've seen with the leveling stuff of Guild Wars 2, but I imagine the mythic and the raiding to be probably better. It probably will be, from what I can tell, and I'm looking forward to it. That's what I can say. I can't say if it is better, but I can say, oh, I'm looking forward to it. I am definitely right teased, and I am at the moment actually having fun, and there is a little bit of challenge in mastery of my class, in understanding the lore, and peeling back the curtain of the greater cosmos of the world or worlds of Warcraft, and then also I'm looking forward to the expansion and clearing this challenging content with a guild. I cannot wait to beat this game into the ground, except I have to. Funny thing, I have to once a week apparently. Fuck. Anyways, that's what it is, guys. What do you guys think? Much love. See you in the next one.